Hi, it's Michelle with Books Cause Insomnia. Today I'm doing my mid-month check-in, and I know I'm a couple days late, and I'm sorry about that. For some reason, I've been very sluggish with my reading the last couple weeks. And it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride for me these last few weeks with the books that I've read. There's one that well, you'll hear all about it. I'll just get started. The first book that I read was Charlaine Harris, A Bone to Pick. This is the second book in the Aurora Tea Garden series. And I've mentioned before that I didn't really like the protagonist. Well, okay, I'll address that more in a minute, but what this book is about is the protagonist. Her name is Ro. She gets a house. Like an acquaintance of hers passes away and leaves her everything, which is a little far-fetched, right? But so she gets a house and a lot of money, and she moves into this house, or she's going through it, and she finds that there's a skull in there. Now this is kind of weird. She assumes there was some sort of a murder and then decides to go investigate. She doesn't call the cops or think maybe there might be something else to the story. You know, maybe somebody used to be an anthropologist or something. I don't know. But she just immediately thinks that it was something foul, some kind of foul play at hand. The storyline in and of itself was pretty good, actually. I don't know that I would call it a mystery. It's almost more just like a fiction story of a person trying to figure out what happened with something, but it doesn't feel like a typical mystery, and it definitely doesn't feel to me like a cozy mystery, which is fine. I just thought that it was. But here's my problem. Okay, when I read the first book, I kept thinking, like, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 times, that the main character, Ro, was racist. It's very uncomfortable for me, especially when I'm not expecting it, and especially when it feels like it doesn't have anything to do with the storyline. If I was reading a book about the March on Washington, I would expect there to be a bunch of references to racism and what people that are racist say and do, and that kind of stuff. But I'm not expecting it in a cozy mystery. And I kept thinking, well, it's got to be in my head. I'm sure I'm just being sensitive or something, because I live in 2021, and Charlaine Harris hasn't said anything that I thought was racist in the other book series that I've read. So then I read this book, and there's a part in here where it just, to me, was glaring. And it takes place in the 90s. So it is a different era, but I don't remember this being acceptable in the 90s, at least not where I lived. But now there's a part in this book where it says, it references a realtor and that she's black, and then it says that it's amazing to Ro that people still want to work with her even though she's black. And I thought, okay, that definitely feels inappropriate to me. I really had debated, do I want to keep reading this series? I didn't like the protagonist to begin with. I kept feeling like there was hints of her being racist, but then in the second book, she really kind of came right out and just said that she is. I've never decided not to keep reading a series that I've picked up before that I can remember. And so I thought, especially when it's an author that I like so much, like, what do I do? Now, one thing I did notice in the comments about this book is that it's just this series. People hadn't noticed it in any of her other series. And so I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe I'll just move on to a different series and maybe start reading the Sookie Stackhouse series or something. But I really don't feel comfortable with it, and it really does bother me. If I don't feel comfortable with something, I really don't want to keep reading it. So this is where this series ends for me, which is kind of sad, because I did get a couple more books in this series at the used bookstore, but I'm just going to trade them right back in and get other books with what I traded them in for. Because of this was a 2-star book. I would have given it 4.5 or 5 stars. I thought the storyline was really good, but when you throw that kind of hate in there, I can't say it's a great book that everybody should read, right? It just doesn't sit well with me. The next book that I read, I don't have a copy to show you, so I will put an image over here for you. I read The Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, and it's a shorter story. And I listened to the whole thing on audiobook because, you know, mannequins give me the creeps. And I just, when I saw this on there, I thought I have to listen to this book. What it's about is a group of teenagers who are out playing one day. I think, if I remember correctly, it takes place in the 80s or 90s, I think. Maybe not. I don't know if it really said when it took place. That's one thing when I'm listening to a book, some of those little details I tend to not remember. Whereas if it was a physical book, I'd write it in my annotation notes and that kind of stuff. But it's about a group of teenagers that see a mannequin at in a ravine or something like that. And they decide to bring it home. And they play with this mannequin for years and act like he's one of their friends or whatever. Because they're like younger teenagers. Well, as they start getting older and they start dating and getting their driver's licenses and getting jobs and that kind of stuff, they stop paying attention to the mannequin. And the mannequin gets pissed and decides to take revenge. And he starts offing them one by one. Sounds wild, but it's right up my alley because I think mannequins are so creepy. This was such a fun read. It was fun to read a teen book. It kind of felt like a horror novel version of like 16 Candles or something, just with like all the little sprinkles of teen life. And I thought it was really fun. And it was creepy at times too. I didn't lose sleep over it. I didn't scream out loud or anything, but I still thought it was creepy at times. It was adventurous and it was gripping. I really had fun with the protagonist. The way that he thinks is very amusing to me. So I definitely recommend reading this book or listening to this book. I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. The reason that I only read 3 books so far this month, The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. This book is a lot. It's about a lady named Jane, obviously, who decides to get married for convenience. She's an orphan. She is living with this rich couple, and the husband is a judge, and she's been living with them her whole teen and adult years. She's now considered a spinster, and they're moving back to where she lived when she became an orphan. And there was a war that happened and a lot of just really horrific memories that she has, so she doesn't want to go back to that town. But he just got a job offer to be a judge at a higher level out there, so he has to go. And she decides, well, the only way I can stay is to get married, because back then, I don't think it ever said what year it was in this book, but in the Gothic era, women didn't just take care of themselves and live on their own the way we do now. Women had to get married if they didn't want to live with their parents anymore. So she finds this doctor, and I almost kind of pictured somebody on I shouldn't say Match.com. That's what I used 12 years ago when I was single, but it's probably not what anybody uses anymore. But some kind of a dating app or something where she's kind of checking off the different things that she wants a guy to be and doesn't want him to be, but she's really looking for a marriage of convenience. And she meets this Dr. Lawrence, and she talks him into marrying her. And the whole setup sounds kind of weird, kind of questionable. He tells her, look, I live at my family home and I sleep there every night. You can live where I do my surgeries, but you can't ever come to my house at night. Which sounds like an odd marriage, but it's a marriage of convenience, so does it matter? I mean, maybe she doesn't want to sleep with him every night, right? So she agrees to this. She agrees to help him with his surgeries. She loves math, so she is excited to do his books for him. And everything's going along great until one night she has an accident in the carriage that she's in. She can't, in this middle of this huge rainstorm, she can't just walk home to the surgery. She's got to go back to his family home. And when she gets there, she finds out why he doesn't want her to go there at night. And I don't want to spoil anything. So from here on out, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to be very kind of vague and like weird about how I describe the book. What I'll say is there's black magic in here. There's ghosts in here, like a haunted house kind of situation. It's definitely very gothic and dark, very morbid. It's kind of interesting, though, reading about doctors back then and how they did surgeries back then, but it is very bloody and gross. Now, I really enjoyed this book. It was a real treat to read it. It kind of felt like Jane Eyre meets Crimson Peaks, if you could picture that. And I think that's why I really took my time reading it. I just wanted to savor it because I was enjoying it so much. I wanted to understand it. You know, sometimes for me anyway, with gothic horror novels, I tend to have to reread a paragraph or two or a page or two more than once sometimes. And that definitely happened here with this book as well. But it was very beautifully written. I really liked the protagonist. There was a real sinister air to the whole book. It was very creepy and dark. The truth felt very hidden all the way through to the end, even at the end. I recommend this book for anybody that really likes a dark, slow burn, gothic horror novel. If you don't like that, this might not be the book for you. The first half of the book, I would say, maybe first 2/3 of the book, are really good. And then it kind of takes on this real ghost haunting black magic kind of turn that I think a lot of people might find off-putting if they're not okay with reading such topics. But I thought it was really good. The ending was very fascinating. In my mind, it was an ending that was like a choose your own adventure, in the sense that there's at least 2 different ways you could take the ending, but I don't think either one is incorrect. I kind of felt like the author was setting it up for us to decide what we think happened or what we think the truth is, which I kind of like and I kind of don't. Like sometimes I want an author to just tell me everything, but is it so bad to make me think a little bit? Probably not. One thing I found a little off-putting about it, though, just a little, dare I say, not realistic, is the way Jane was willing to, she kind of turned her husband into this ride or die situation where she was willing to do anything for this guy right after marrying him, but she married him out of convenience, not out of love. And I thought, that seems a little excessive. I've known a person or two in my life that has got married out of convenience. And I will say that the main theme of that, at least in the situations that I know of, has been selfishness. And so the thought of someone getting married for convenience and not love, and then just going balls to the wall, like hardcore, I will do anything for this person. Are you thinking of that Meatball song now? Yeah. Me too. It just seemed a little far-fetched. That's all I'm going to say. Have you read this book? Are you going to read this book? Let me know. And let me know what you thought. But just don't put any spoilers down in the comments, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. If you want to talk to me about this book and what you thought of it, I do have my email address down in the description box. You are welcome to email me and tell me what you thought. I might not respond right away because I don't check my email every day, oddly enough. Just the work one that I hate looking at. But I will eventually read it. And I gave this book 4.5 stars. So I guess I should just bump it up to 5. I did really enjoy it though. And I do plan on reading it again one day, which is one of my criteria for 5 stars. I know it sounds kind of snobby, but I do reread books a lot. So maybe not since I started this channel, but typically throughout my life, I do reread books quite a bit. So I don't think it's out of bounds to have that be one of my criteria. Pretty excited that there was 2 5-star books so far. And well, that first book, I literally, after reading it and feeling so upset about it, I had to take days off of reading. I didn't even want to think about books for a few days. And I thought, well, if a book's going to kill all the fun of reading for me, I just can't keep reading this series. I mean, to me, books are one of my greatest joys in life. I can't have that. And now I am going to talk to you about my life updates. Well, things are definitely going to be a little bit crazy for me in the next month and a half. We are moving in January. We're not moving to a different city or anything. We're just moving from an apartment to probably a house. If some kind of an emergency happens and we aren't finding what we want, maybe we'll move into a townhouse or an apartment or something. But the big thing is we need to move into a 3-bedroom apartment, and this apartment complex does not have 3 bedrooms here. Also, I don't feel safe in this complex, and not anymore. And they have new management, and their criteria for who they have moving in seems to have really changed, and it's not something I'm on board with. So when Brad does go out of town, I need to feel safe coming and going from in and out of my home, and I just don't here. As far as why we need 3 bedrooms, it's because ever since the outbreak, we both work from home now, and we used to work together. We don't work together anymore. We have separate careers, and we both have the kind of jobs where we really need to have an office of our own. We can't have the other person on the phone or talking while we're working. So we need a 3-bedroom now. We have our 10-year wedding anniversary coming up, so we're going to be having a really fun night out where we have like a nice ritzy dinner, and we're going to go out to like a piano bar afterwards. And then for Thanksgiving, we are staying home. It's just going to be Brad and me. Since our anniversary is right around Thanksgiving, we just decided to kind of be alone together this year, especially since he's been out of town so much lately. And I'm making a full traditional Thanksgiving meal. I'm making turkey and mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese and stuffing. Then I'm making cheesecake for myself and apple cobbler for him. We both are dead set on having our particular things, and neither one of them make a whole lot. So I thought, I'm just going to make what he wants for him and what I want for me. Why not, right? And then I'm also going to be making for breakfast, probably on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to make this, it's a peach bread pudding that is so good. I made it one year and we really liked it, and so now every year we have it for breakfast multiple days throughout the week of Thanksgiving. So do you celebrate Thanksgiving? I know not everybody that watches this channel is in America, but if you do, let me know what you're doing this year. And do you know what you're eating? Let me know if you do. I love hearing this kind of stuff. And if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, well, you're still free to let me know what you're doing this next weekend. I will be doing a winter book release video, and it's going to be coming out this weekend, so be sure to check that out. There's some really, really fun books on there, I think. I have quite a few books to try to read now between now and the end of the month, and I mean, I don't know if I'll get to all of them. It's not a big deal, though. It is what it is. But I'm super excited to start another book and see where it takes me. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, if you plan on reading them, or books you have read yourself so far. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Happy reading. Bye.